When you suddenly disappear, it sends shockwaves through him. Even if he doesn't immediately show it, there's this raw, emotional confusion that sets in right from the start. Think about it. 1 minute you're there, sharing moments, creating memories, exchanging thoughts, and the next minute you're gone. It's like being ripped out of a reality he thought he understood. And that confusion isn't just a fleeting thought. It lingers. He doesn't know why you disappeared, what triggered it, or how to even process it. It's this kind of uncertainty that leaves him feeling exposed, like he's standing in the middle of a room, surrounded by things he thought were secure, only to realize they were fragile all along. At first, he'll try to rationalize it. He'll tell himself that maybe you just needed space, or maybe it was just a momentary thing, but that's the easy way out. Deep down, he knows something more significant happened. The absence of an explanation is like a crack in his world, and he's trying desperately to figure out what caused it. And let's be honest, it's not easy. You see, men, no matter how tough they appear on the surface, hate uncertainty. It's not about having all the answers, but more about having some control, some clarity over what's happening around them. And when that clarity is stripped away, it's like standing in a fog. Everything is blurry, and he doesn't know which way to go. The confusion starts to seep into every aspect of his life. He'll find himself reflecting on moments you shared, replaying the conversations you had, analyzing even the smallest of details. Did I say something wrong? Was I too distant? Was I too much? The self-doubt will start creeping in. What's interesting is that in this phase, it's often not about blaming you. It's more about blaming himself. He will wrestle with this feeling that he should have done something differently, or that there was something he overlooked. And that nagging question, what did I do wrong, will run on a constant loop. Even when he's not consciously thinking about it, it will always be in the back of his mind, nagging at him like a broken record. The more he tries to analyze the situation, the more confused he becomes. And this is where men often face a struggle that isn't talked about enough, the struggle with vulnerability. For him, opening up emotionally isn't easy, especially if he's the kind of person who keeps his feelings close to his chest. He won't openly admit it, but the absence of you will leave him feeling powerless. He doesn't know what to do with the emotions that come up. And so in this confusion, there's often a defense mechanism that kicks in, one of emotional withdrawal. Rather than express how he feels or reach out, he might retreat into his comfort zone, convincing himself that he can handle this on his own. It's at this point that the emotional confusion deepens. He'll tell himself things like, maybe it wasn't meant to be, or I'll just move on. But those words don't erase what's happening inside. There's this undercurrent of panic that he can't shake. Every day, he wonders if you're thinking of him, if you miss him, if you're ever going to come back. And the more days that pass, the more those thoughts start to cloud his judgment. If he can't make sense of what's happening, he might even convince himself that it's better this way, that maybe you weren't the right one for him after all. But again, it's just the defense mechanisms at play. Deep down, he's still trying to make sense of it all, still wrestling with this confusion that won't let go. What's interesting is that in this phase, the emotional confusion doesn't just affect him in isolated moments. It starts to bleed into other parts of his life. He'll start noticing that his focus is off. The things that once excited him, work, hobbies, his routine, suddenly seem distant and irrelevant. His mind is consumed with thoughts of you, and the more he tries to push those thoughts away, the more they seem to take root. It's almost like your absence has left a space that no one else can fill. Now, here's where it gets complicated. The confusion isn't just about the past, it's also about the future. He won't be able to stop wondering what could have been. Could this relationship have worked if only he had done more, been more attentive, or communicated better? These questions will start to plague him day after day. And even if he doesn't outwardly express it, he's thinking about what he lost. There's a sense of grief that comes with the realization that you're no longer a part of his daily life. It might take some time for him to admit it, but the absence of you starts to feel like an actual loss. And let's not forget how this confusion can lead to action, or the lack thereof. In trying to make sense of things, he might attempt to reach out to you, hoping for some kind of response, some sort of clarity, But sometimes in his attempt to protect himself, he'll resist doing that. He might be afraid of being rejected, or worse, looking desperate. So instead, he waits, hoping that somehow the confusion will resolve itself, but knowing deep down that it won't. The reality is, confusion isn't just an emotional state. It's also a form of helplessness. When he doesn't know what happened or why it happened, he's left feeling powerless, like a puzzle he can't solve. This powerlessness isn't something men like to admit, but it's there. It's a vulnerability he may not be ready to face just yet. And as each day goes by, that feeling of powerlessness grows stronger, pushing him further into a place of self-reflection and emotional conflict. What I want you to understand is this: in these early days, after you disappear, it's not about you being cruel or playing games. It's about him grappling with something that's hard to face. The possibility that he lost something valuable, something he didn't fully appreciate while he had it. It's about the emotional turmoil that comes with uncertainty, the fear of the unknown, and the desire to understand what went wrong. He may not show it on the surface, but beneath it all, he's wrestling with a deep internal struggle. And so the emotional confusion continues day after day. It doesn't just fade away overnight. It becomes a part of him, a constant hum in the background of his life. The longer you're gone, the more intense this confusion becomes. It's like a storm that he can't escape from. And in that storm, all he's really looking for is an answer. Just something, anything, to make sense of what happened. And the truth is, this journey through confusion is just the beginning of something bigger. It's the first step in his emotional evolution, a process that may eventually lead him to reflect, regret, and realize what he had and possibly lost. But for now, confusion reigns. And until he can process it, until he can piece together the fragments of what happened, he'll continue to feel adrift, like a ship in the middle of an ocean searching for land. When you disappear from his life, the first thing you'll notice is the internal battle he goes through, which isn't as outwardly obvious as you might think. It's easy to assume that he's simply unaffected, that he's moved on without a second thought. But here's the thing: the moment you walk away, you trigger something inside of him that he's probably not even aware of at first. It's this complex dance between his ego and his true feelings. We all know that men, just like anyone else, don't like to feel vulnerable. It's something that's been ingrained in them for years, either through society's expectations or their own personal experiences. So when you disappear, there's this instant response that kicks in. He tells himself he's fine, he's cool, he doesn't need you. Maybe he tries to tell his friends, it's no big deal, I'm better off, as if it's some kind of protective shield he can put up to keep the discomfort at bay. But here's where it gets interesting. Even though he says that, something inside of him is still looking for answers. He'll go through the motions of telling everyone he's fine, but behind closed doors, he's replaying the moments you shared, wondering if he did something wrong. In the early days after you're gone, this pride he holds on to begins to make him feel conflicted. It creates this emotional tension where he wants to come off as unaffected, but every part of him is still processing the situation. When he's not speaking to you or even thinking about you directly, his thoughts are consumed with questions. Did I push her too far? Was I too distant? Did I show her enough of what she needed? These thoughts become a daily struggle, almost like his internal dialogue is a battleground between his desire to protect his pride and the real feelings that have started to rise to the surface. What happens next is important. After the initial defensive stance, he'll enter into a period of denial. That's when he'll be most likely to tell himself, I'm fine on my own. He may even convince himself that the whole relationship was just a distraction, or that he wasn't really invested in it anyway. But deep down, he knows that's not the full truth. Men are wired to protect themselves, and sometimes that means putting on a tough exterior and convincing the world and themselves that they aren't bothered. The problem is, with every passing day, he's coming to terms with the fact that he misses something you brought into his life, even if he wasn't fully aware of it while you were around. But this process doesn't happen overnight. It's gradual. The more time goes on without you, the more he starts to feel a gap, an emptiness, that wasn't there before. It's not always obvious at first. He may ignore it for a while, but eventually, even if he's hesitant to admit it to himself, he starts realizing that something has shifted. He starts questioning whether he was as emotionally available as he thought he was. He reflects on the moments he might have brushed off, or the things he didn't pay attention to, all the while trying to protect his ego from admitting he made mistakes. The truth is, men struggle to let go of their pride because it's tied to how they see themselves. Their sense of self-worth often gets wrapped up in how they are perceived by others, and especially by someone they care about. When you disappear, it challenges that self-picture. And here's where the shift begins to happen. It's not just about your absence anymore. It's about him realizing that his emotional response to losing you is something he can't control. His pride might be telling him he's fine, but underneath, the truth is that he's not fine. He's missing you, and it's eating away at him more than he'd like to admit. During this phase, he starts facing a truth that can't be ignored: how much he really needs emotional connection. That's the tricky part for him. He's a human being, and just like anyone else, he craves emotional intimacy. But admitting that to himself goes against everything his ego has been telling him. His ego wants to believe that he's self-sufficient, that he doesn't need anyone to feel whole. But deep down, he knows that a piece of him has been left behind with you. This realization doesn't come all at once, but it starts to creep in. It's subtle at first, like an undercurrent of thought, but over time, it becomes undeniable. As the days roll by, his pride begins to take a backseat. He starts to let go of some of the defenses he put up around his heart. He's not quite ready to fully admit that he misses you, but he's becoming more aware of it. The process of self-reflection is powerful, and it often leads him to a point where he can no longer deny how much you truly meant to him. The times you shared, the chemistry, the laughter, the support, these moments begin to shine brighter in his memory. The moments he took for granted start to stand out in sharp relief. He looks back and sees things he didn't see before. It's not that he didn't care for you, but that he didn't understand just how much your presence in his life mattered. By now, the confusion starts to give way to a sense of regret. Regret creeps in slowly, like a shadow at first, and then it becomes harder to ignore. He'll wonder if he could have done something differently, if he'd been more present, more thoughtful, more emotionally available. The truth is, men often don't realize what they have until it's gone. And this is one of those moments where the absence of you makes him see just how much he took your presence for granted. He might try to suppress the regret, but it's there, eating away at him. Regret over not saying the right things or not expressing himself enough. He'll wonder if he could have been more vulnerable, if he could have let his guard down. But by the time he realizes this, it might be too late. The window of opportunity to change things has closed, and the only thing left is the echo of what could have been. This, of course, leads to the next phase: fear. Fear of losing you forever. The longer you're gone, the stronger that fear becomes. At first, it might have seemed like something temporary, but as the days turn into weeks and the weeks into months, he'll start to feel a deep, unsettling anxiety about the future. He'll worry that he's never going to get another chance to prove to you that he's worthy of your love. He might even fear that you've moved on, or worse, that you've found someone who's able to offer you the emotional connection that he couldn't. And yet, through all this, something interesting happens. Despite the pride, despite the ego, there's a part of him that begins to appreciate you in a way he never could have when you were around. As the silence between the two of you grows, so does the recognition of how much you brought into his life. The moments that once felt small now seem significant. The way you made him feel, the way you challenged him, the way you saw him, it all starts to sink in. The fear of losing you becomes a catalyst for a new understanding, a new sense of appreciation for what you shared. In the end, it's this emotional evolution that defines his journey after you disappear. It's a process that doesn't happen in a straight line. It's messy, it's confusing, and it's often painful. But through it all, he's learning something important about himself, about you, and about the power of emotional connection. And if you ever cross paths again, He'll approach you with a new sense of understanding, a deeper appreciation, and maybe, just maybe, a little more vulnerability than he ever had before. As the days pass by, he begins to find himself in a space of reflection. It's like a slow unraveling of thoughts and memories, and at first it's almost as if he's too busy with the daily routine to notice. But eventually, something shifts. The quiet moments, the ones where he's no longer distracted by the noise of life, are where his thoughts start to find their way back to you. And that's when the real reflection begins. He'll look back on what you had, not just in a nostalgic way, but with an increasing awareness of what you brought into his life. At first, it may be small things. A laugh you shared, the way you'd light up a room when you walked in, the gentle ease with which you could talk for hours. These memories, though, seemingly trivial at first, hold much more weight now that they're gone. The little things begin to stick out in his mind, and suddenly he's aware of how much of his life you occupied. As he takes a step back and looks at the relationship from a wider lens, he starts to see what you really brought to the table. A sense of stability, joy, and connection. You were someone who truly saw him, who didn't just take him at face value, but understood the deeper layers of who he was. Perhaps it was your ability to have those deep conversations, or maybe it was your humor that made every bad day feel a little less heavy. No matter the specifics, you gave him something unique, something real. And now, in your absence, he feels that void more than he thought he would. He might find himself replaying certain moments over and over, trying to understand the intricacies of your dynamic. The times when you laughed until your stomachs hurt, the moments when you were vulnerable with each other, sharing your fears, your hopes, your dreams. You showed him parts of himself he hadn't noticed before. Maybe he wasn't fully conscious of it at the time, but looking back, he sees it now. You were his mirror, helping him reflect, grow, and evolve in ways he never expected. But it's not all just about the good moments. The absence of your presence forces him to examine the parts of the relationship that he took for granted. Maybe there were things that were left unsaid, moments of miscommunication, or times he might not have been as attentive as he should have been. The guilt starts to set in when he recognizes that there were times when he wasn't fully present, times when he might have let you down without even realizing it. And that feeling can be tough to swallow. He'll also start to wonder whether he truly understood you as well as he thought. Maybe there were things you needed that he didn't give, or perhaps he was too caught up in his own world to notice your needs. It's only in hindsight that he realizes how much you contributed to his growth, how your perspective helped him see things differently. He starts to wish he had paid more attention when you spoke, listened more carefully to your needs, or been more proactive in making you feel valued. With all of this reflection, he'll also start to realize the impact you had on his emotional landscape. Relationships like the one you shared don't come around often, and that's something he knows deep down. At first, when things were easy, when everything felt like it was falling into place, he may not have truly appreciated how rare and special it was. But now, without you, he feels that scarcity. He sees the uniqueness of what you brought to his life, how effortlessly you fit into his world, and how naturally you made him feel understood. It's as if a piece of the puzzle is missing, and he's left trying to fill that gap with things that don't quite measure up. This reflection, while painful at times, is crucial. He'll start to understand more deeply the role you played in his life, and it will make him realize that the connection you had wasn't just about fun moments or fleeting excitement. It was about something real, something substantial. He may not have known it then, but he knows it now. You were an anchor in a sea of uncertainty, a calm force that brought balance when everything else felt chaotic. As the days go on, there's a quiet longing that starts to build inside him. The longing to go back, to fix the things that were left undone, to repair what was broken. He'll ask himself, what if I had done things differently? What if I had been more present? What if I had said the things I didn't say? This doesn't always come with clarity, and sometimes it's not even about finding the answers. It's about realizing how much he misses what you had, how much he took it for granted, and how much he wishes he could turn back time and do it all over again. The longing isn't just about wanting the relationship to return to what it was. It's about recognizing that there was something deeper there, something worth holding on to, something he wasn't ready to fully appreciate until it was gone. And in that space of longing, there's a painful yet beautiful realization. He misses not just the good moments, but the potential of what the two of you could have had. The future you never got to experience together is now a part of his thoughts, and it weighs heavily on him. This reflection, though painful, becomes a necessary part of his growth. It forces him to reckon with the person he was in the relationship and the person he wants to be moving forward. As the days pass, he'll come to terms with the fact that no matter how much he regrets or wishes for a different outcome, the only way to truly grow is to accept the reality of the situation. In the quiet moments, when he's alone with his thoughts, he'll come to realize that he can't undo the past, but he can use this experience as a catalyst for change. Whether or not he reaches out to you, whether or not he gets the chance to make things right, he'll be forever altered by the lessons learned from losing you. And in that space of reflection, he will slowly but surely begin to understand just how much you meant to him. At the end of the day, the absence you left in his life becomes a mirror, a reflection of both his growth and his shortcomings. It forces him to see himself more clearly, to realize where he fell short, but also where he succeeded. It's in this reflection that he learns what he needs to work on, what he values in a relationship, and ultimately what he wants moving forward. And as difficult as it is, it's also a crucial step in his journey toward becoming the person he was meant to be. And that's where he will stand, not just with the loss of you, but with a deeper understanding of himself and what truly matters in life and love. As the days pass, something begins to shift inside him. In the beginning, there's that sense of disbelief, the disbelief that you're not there anymore, that the routine he'd grown accustomed to has been disrupted. But slowly that disbelief starts to morph into something else. It's not anger or even frustration at first. It's more a quiet, uncomfortable feeling. A feeling that something he didn't appreciate enough is now gone. And he's left to sit with that realization. He starts to wonder, deep down, if this is his fault, if he could have done something differently, if he could have been more present, more aware, more in tune with you. The reality of regret begins to seep in. Regret, like an unwanted guest, doesn't knock politely at the door, it barges in and makes itself at home, sitting in his mind long after the moment has passed. The longer you're gone, the more this feeling lingers. He begins to replay moments, to look back at the times he could have done more, said more, been more. The small things that he once shrugged off now loom larger in his mind. Maybe there were things you said that he didn't really take seriously, or things you did that he thought were just minor gestures, but now they start to feel significant. He sees them in a new light. Suddenly, the words he dismissed as simple affection now feel like expressions of love. The gestures he didn't value enough now appear to be signs of care and commitment. What was once an ordinary gesture becomes a meaningful reminder of what he's lost. He regrets not being more responsive when you needed him to be, or not taking the time to show you that he appreciated you in ways that really mattered to you. And the thing about regret is that it's not just about the big moments he missed. It's often about the little ones, the missed opportunities to say, I love you when he felt it, or to show up when you needed him, or to make space in his life for what you brought to it. It's the realization that in the midst of his day-to-day life, with all its distractions and priorities, he took for granted something that he now can't easily replace. As the days slip by, the feeling intensifies. He wishes he had been more vulnerable, more open about his feelings. Maybe there were times when he held back, unsure of how you'd react, or what it would mean for him to let down his guard. In hindsight, he sees now that his hesitation wasn't a strength. It was a defense mechanism, a way of protecting himself from the fear of getting too close, of getting hurt. But that protection, that barrier he thought was so necessary, is now the very thing that's keeping him from having the closeness he truly wants. He begins to regret that he didn't allow himself to be more open, more honest, more willing to take the risks that come with real emotional intimacy. The regrets also go deeper than just the relationship itself. They extend into how he's lived his life and the choices he's made. In the silence of your absence, he begins to see more clearly the patterns he's been stuck in, the way he's avoided vulnerability, the way he's kept his emotions in check out of fear of being too open. He starts to question himself, to question his own commitment to growth. Was he really ready for something meaningful? Or had he been caught up in the surface level, the easy distractions, the things that didn't require him to dig deeper into who he truly was? And as these reflections continue to unfold, the regret doesn't stay confined to his thoughts. It spills over into his actions. Perhaps he tries to reach out to you to reconnect, but now the challenge is even greater. He doesn't know how to express everything that's been building inside him. The more time passes, the more his pride holds him back. But in the quiet moments, when he's not putting on a front, he knows that he can't just let this go. His desire to find a way back to you grows stronger. But the weight of his earlier choices, the moments when he chose not to speak up or to show up for you, makes it feel like the damage may already be done. It's hard to face the possibility that his hesitation has led him to the point of losing you for good. But it's in this awareness that the deepest regrets begin to take shape. It's not just about the relationship. It's about what he's learned, the lessons he now understands in hindsight. And the more he thinks about it, the more he realizes that these regrets are his to own. He can't blame you for disappearing, not entirely. You had your reasons, your own feelings, your own needs, and maybe he didn't do enough to show you that he cared. Maybe he took you for granted, and as he wrestles with that truth, he starts to recognize something important. Regret, if channeled properly, can become the catalyst for growth. This reflection, painful as it may be, isn't the end. It's a beginning. It's the moment when he starts to recognize that he needs to be different if he wants to move forward. Regret doesn't have to be something that lingers forever. It can be the force that drives him to make the changes he needs to make to become the man he wants to be. But for now, in these quiet moments of reflection, the regret lingers, heavy in his chest. He doesn't know what comes next, but he knows one thing. He'll never look at this the same way again. And as time goes on, this feeling of regret will continue to shape him. Maybe it will drive him to make the changes he needs in future relationships, to become more self-aware, to open his heart more fully when the time comes. But in this moment, in the days after you've disappeared, all he can do is sit with it, to sit with the truth of what he missed and the truth of what he now understands. There's no easy fix. There's no quick answer. All he can do is reflect, regret, and ultimately hope that with time, he'll have the chance to show you that he's learnt, that he's grown, and that the mistakes he made have shaped him into someone who won't take the next chance for granted. As time moves on, the days start to feel longer, the silence louder, and the absence more profound. The first few hours or even days after you've disappeared, he might try to convince himself that it's okay, that he's unaffected, that he's strong enough to handle it. But as each day passes, something shifts within him. What began as an initial sense of relief, or maybe even freedom, slowly turns into something far more. The truth he's been avoiding starts to creep in. He's afraid of losing you for good. At first, he won't even fully realize it. It'll start with little moments where he'll catch himself thinking about you. Something small, maybe just a song you both used to listen to, or a phrase that you always said. It'll bring a sense of nostalgia, maybe even warmth, but also a pang of something else. Something he doesn't want to confront yet. The absence you've left behind becomes more than just a physical space. It turns into a gap in his life. Something intangible but undeniably present. And the more it sits there, the more unsettling it becomes. He might try to fill that gap, distract himself, and do everything he can to forget about the void you've left behind. But it's never quite enough. With each passing day, his mind starts playing tricks on him. He starts asking himself questions he had never dared to ask when you were around. He begins to wonder, what if I never see her again? What if this really is the end? He might convince himself that he's fine, that he doesn't need you, but the deeper fear is still there, lurking beneath the surface. What if this is permanent? You see, when someone disappears from his life, it's not just about the space they leave physically. It's about the emotional presence that no longer fills the room. It's about the things he once took for granted. The late night talks, the way you always knew how to make him laugh, or how your support felt like a constant steady anchor. Those small things that he didn't recognize at the time now loom large in his mind, and now they are gone. Gone in a way that doesn't make sense to him. He never thought that he would lose you. He never imagined that you would just fade away like this. But here he is, left with the growing realization that maybe, just maybe, you're gone for good. The silence amplifies this fear. When you are around, the noise of daily life, the small interactions, and the constant contact helped him ignore that ever-present fear. But now, in the stillness, his thoughts start to run wild. His mind races with what-ifs, wondering if the space you've left is permanent. Maybe he didn't try hard enough. Maybe he didn't say the right things. Or maybe he wasn't there when you needed him. He'll look back on every conversation, every moment, searching for something he missed, something that could have made a difference, something that could have kept you from slipping away, but there's nothing. Only the growing realization that whatever was left unsaid, whatever was left undone, is now beyond his reach. The deeper fear isn't just about losing you, it's about the finality of it. What does it mean to lose someone for good? It's one thing to walk away from a relationship or distance yourself for a time, but it's an entirely different thing to realize that it might be over for good. The thought of it being permanent, of never having the chance to make things right, never having the opportunity to turn things around, is what really starts to bother him. That's when the anxiety sets in. He'll ask himself, what if I've really lost her? And that fear doesn't go away. It lingers, gnawing at him in the quiet moments, creeping into his thoughts when he's alone, reminding him that he may never get a chance to fix things. The fear of never having the chance to tell you what he should have, to show you what he never did, is more painful than he can express. This is when he begins to feel the weight of everything he took for granted. The small, everyday things, the way you made him laugh, the way you could brighten even the darkest days, the way your presence felt like a safe place. He realizes now how much he relied on those moments. Without them, his life feels like it's lacking something important, something essential. And it's hard for him to admit, but there's no denying it. You were that piece. Your energy, your support, your warmth, these things meant more to him than he ever acknowledged. And now he's left to process the emptiness that follows your absence. What once seemed like a given, your presence in his life now feels like a luxury he no longer has. And the longer you stay away, the more he starts to understand that. As the days pass, it becomes harder to escape the reality of the situation. He can only pretend for so long that it doesn't matter, that he's unaffected. But the truth is, the more he pretends, the more frustrated he becomes. Deep down, he knows he's losing something valuable. And in his heart, he fears that if he doesn't act soon, if he doesn't make a move, he'll lose you forever. This fear of losing you becomes more real every day. He'll replay every mistake, every moment where he could have chosen differently, wondering if that one thing, just one thing, could have changed the outcome. The thought that he might never have the chance to prove himself, to fix the mistakes, or to show you that he's changed is something he can't bear. It makes him realize, perhaps for the first time, how much you truly meant to him. And it's in these moments of fear, when he's finally forced to confront the possibility of your absence, that he begins to see things differently. He begins to understand the value of what you brought into his life. It's not just about missing you. It's about recognizing how deeply you impacted him, how your presence made his world better in ways he hadn't fully understood until now. This is the turning point. It's the moment when he starts to realize that he can't afford to lose you, not without a fight. The fear of losing you for good is one of the most profound emotions he'll ever experience. It's a wake-up call, a moment of clarity that forces him to rethink everything. And as the days go by, that fear may push him to act, to reach out, to do what he should have done before before it was too late. But there's no guarantee. Sometimes the fear of losing someone is a reminder that he may have already lost them. And sometimes it's just the thing that wakes him up to the truth, that what he has with you is worth fighting for. And as he comes to this realization, he will understand the importance of the things he took for granted. He'll start to appreciate not just your presence, but the depth of the connection you shared. The moments you had, even the hard ones, will begin to mean more than he could have ever expressed before. He'll look back on your time together with a new understanding, realizing that maybe he didn't realize what he had until it was gone. And in that realization, he'll begin to feel that intense fear of losing you forever. But sometimes that fear is the first step toward recognizing what really matters. As the days turn into weeks and weeks into months, the absence of someone you care about can gradually create a void in your life that you never quite anticipated. At first, it might feel like the absence isn't all that noticeable. You may go through your routines, busy yourself with work or other distractions, but deep down, something is missing. In fact, it's often in these moments of stillness that you start to realize the significance of what's gone. That's when you begin to understand just how much someone really meant to you. It's not always clear at first, especially when we hide behind our pride or logic. We may tell ourselves that everything is fine, that life is moving forward, and that we're perfectly fine on our own. But as time stretches on, the absence lingers. It becomes more of a presence than the person ever was when they were around. It's not the loud moments or the overwhelming emotions that hit you. It's the subtle, quiet realization that things don't feel the same. A missing piece in the puzzle, no matter how hard you try to ignore it, becomes impossible to overlook. The more you reflect, the more you see how much that piece fit perfectly into your life. It's in this space that the shift begins. The days without them stretch on, and with each passing moment, you start to look back at the time you spent together. You start to remember the small things that once seemed insignificant, the way they laughed, the way they looked at you when you spoke, or the way they could just make everything feel okay, even when the world seemed chaotic. The things you may have brushed aside when they were present are now the things you long for. It's as if the silence amplifies everything you once took for granted, and as those moments replay in your mind, something else happens. You begin to look at your own behavior in the relationship. You start to wonder, was I truly present? Did I give enough of myself, or was I holding back? Did I show them how much they really meant to me, or did I let the distractions of life cloud the moments that mattered? These questions don't come from a place of regret yet, but more from a space of curiosity and reflection. They come from an understanding that there may have been things unsaid, feelings unexpressed, and actions left undone. It's in these moments of deep reflection that you begin to understand the complexity of relationships. When you take the time to reflect on a relationship from a place of honesty, you start to appreciate the small, fleeting moments. And that appreciation grows with each day that passes. At first, you might not even recognize it. There's a small shift in your mindset. You don't need anyone else to point it out to you because it happens organically. Your perspective on what truly mattered begins to shift. You see the value in the way they cared for you, the way they understood you in ways no one else did, and you begin to wish you had shown more appreciation in return. But here's the thing. Regret doesn't come in a single rush. It doesn't hit you like a ton of bricks, but rather it's a slow building tide that washes over you bit by bit. It's like walking down a path in your own mind. And with every step, you begin to realize that maybe there were things you should have said. Maybe there were moments when you should have acted differently. And with each realization, you're faced with the painful truth that it's too late to change things now. You see, regret doesn't mean you made mistakes intentionally. In fact, it's often the opposite. It's the result of being unaware of what was truly at stake until it's no longer there. You didn't realize what you had until it was gone. That's the most painful part of regret. It's not the mistakes you made, it's the moments you didn't fully appreciate when you had the chance. And in that moment of realization, you might wish you could go back, do things differently, or make a different choice. But the truth is, that's not possible. As the time passes, a different emotion takes hold. Fear. Fear of losing something forever. At first, it might have seemed like a temporary separation, a brief moment of space. But the longer it goes on, the more you begin to fear that this time away is permanent. You start to imagine the possibility that they may not come back, that they may have moved on, or worse, that they may not have felt as strongly about the relationship as you did. The fear of losing someone becomes an overwhelming sensation, one that you can't ignore no matter how hard you try. It's no longer just about missing them, it's about the realization that they may have walked away for good. And as that fear settles in, you begin to ask yourself questions that feel like they have no answers. Did I push them away without realizing it? Did I let fear control my actions? Was I too caught up in my own world to notice what they needed? The realization that they might never come back forces you to look at the relationship with a new lens. The things that once seemed insignificant now stand out as the very things that held everything together. The messages you left unsent, the words you never spoke, and the moments you thought didn't matter. All of these become the things you wish you could take back. Not because they were mistakes, but because they were opportunities you missed. And so, as the days continue to pass, something profound happens within you. You begin to appreciate them, not just for who they were in your life, but for the ways they made you a better person. You realize that their presence in your life wasn't just about shared memories, it was about how they pushed you to grow, how they challenged you, and how they made you see things differently. The way they saw the world, the way they navigated through life, and the way they cared about you in their own unique way. It becomes clear just how much you've been impacted by them. Absence, in its quiet and sometimes painful way, opens your eyes to what you never fully saw before. It forces you to confront the truth about your feelings, your actions, and your own understanding of love and connection. It forces you to grow in ways that might have seemed uncomfortable at the time, but ultimately shape who you are and how you move forward in future relationships. It's only when you have that space, that time apart, that you can see them for who they truly were in your life. And in that newfound appreciation, you understand one thing clearly: love, connection, and relationships are fragile. They require more than just good intentions. They require action, communication, and a willingness to invest in the moments that matter. The realization that you've let something so important slip away is both painful and enlightening. You start to see the depth of the relationship you shared. You begin to understand that sometimes it's not about what you say, but what you do. Sometimes it's the small gestures, the everyday moments of care and connection that make all the difference. You realize that love isn't always about grand gestures or perfect timing. It's about showing up when it counts, being there when it matters, and appreciating the person for who they are. And so, as the fear of losing them begins to fade into a deeper sense of understanding, you come to realize that in the end, the most important lesson is this: that sometimes absence really does make the heart grow fonder. And with that understanding, you can begin to appreciate not just what was, but what could have been. And with that, you can find peace.